How's it going, guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be checking out things you should definitely know as early as you possibly can in Days Gone. These tips and tricks are clearly directed at early game, and they are things you have most likely already figured out if you've spent many hours in the game already. But this video is going to be perfect for you if you've just downloaded the game, or maybe you're even downloading the game as we speak and you're browsing the web just to help you get a little bit of a head start before you begin your new adventure in this post-apocalyptic world of Days Gone. The first tip I'm going to say in this video is do the Nero checkpoints as early as you possibly can. These things are incredibly useful. As a quick overview, Nero checkpoints are locations that can be found around the map in Days Gone. And usually in these locations you have to clear out a few enemies first. Once we've cleared out the area, we want to try and find a gas can. There's normally at least one, if not two, located around all of the Nero checkpoints. Once we've found the gas can, we need to fill up the generator located in the Nero checkpoint, allowing us access inside the building. And the reason these are so important to get done as early as possible, because not only are they exactly what they sound like, a checkpoint, you can use them as a base, you can rest here, you can use your locker, and most importantly, you can fast travel to the Nero checkpoints as well, allowing you freedom to get around the map a lot more comfortably. But on top of all of that, we can also find inside each Nero checkpoint there's going to be a white box, and inside this white box we can find a Nero injector. Once we find these Nero injectors, each one of them will allow us to permanently buff either our stamina, our health, or our focus. We can choose which one of those we want to increase upon finding each one of them. So obviously, the earlier you get these done, it's going to be a huge help, especially if you're playing on one of the harder difficulties. And now we're on the topic of the Nero checkpoints. Also, you're going to notice that when you activate a Nero checkpoint, there's going to be speakers attached to the roof outside, and this is going to attract a lot of attention of enemies nearby. And once we exit the first Nero checkpoint, the game will explain to us that we can shoot them down or cut them down. But a nice habit to get into is making sure you cut down these speakers before you even activate the generator. This way, they'll never get to activate in the first place. Another tip that I'm sure most of the players already get into a habit of doing is making sure that you craft bandages even when you don't need them. Make sure you always have the max amount of bandages crafted as you can possibly carry in your inventory, for the simple reason to not waste materials. And what I mean by this is there's going to be situations where you either find loot around the map, or you're going to loot the corpses of enemies you may have killed, and your inventory is going to be full, and sometimes you won't even notice this as you quickly just loot through a load of enemies. And then you realize you've left all of these materials behind just because you couldn't carry any more rags, for example, but you could have used those rags to create more bandages and then pick up the rags, so if you need to create more afterwards, you could have had more in the stock. However, by not using your materials earlier to craft the bandages, your inventory is full and you couldn't carry any more of them. So I hope this made sense. Definitely craft, especially bandages, as much as you can, even if you don't actually need them at that time. Something that's going to be very useful in this game is going to be the rest mechanic. You can rest by sleeping at a bunch of places, pretty much anywhere you'd assume is safe, a Nero checkpoint, a campsite, your lookout, anywhere like that. You can rest. However, resting on this game doesn't work quite the same as it does in some other games. It doesn't make an exact amount of hours transpire. The way resting works on this game, that if you sleep during the daytime, it'll always wake you up at 6 p.m. And then if you rest any time after that during the nighttime, it'll always wake you up at 7 a.m. the next morning. And the more you play through the game, the more you're going to realize that it's very important to manipulate what time of the day you're doing certain things in certain places. Something else that many of you have probably already noticed by yourself, but embarrassingly took me a little bit longer than I would have hoped it would have taken me to realize something, is that each camp uses its own separate credit system. So if you get credits in one camp, you can only spend those credits at that camp and they're not useful at the other ones. And the reason this is important, it's because different camps have different types of upgrade. For example, you can't buy new weapons at the first camp you encounter, and at the second camp you can't upgrade your motorbike. So definitely take this into account if you're looking to upgrade or buy a specific thing. Which means before handing in the ears as bounty or the meat and plants you gather around your adventures into any of the camps, definitely check in with what upgrades you can actually buy with the credit from that campsite specifically. As is the case with most open world games, you're going to find yourself abusing the fast travel mechanic a lot in this game just to get around from point A to point B. However, you won't be able to use the fast travel mechanic if there's still an active infestation nest in between where you'll want to go and where you currently are at. So the point of me mentioning this is if you do happen to come across any infestation nest, do your best to take out as many of them as you can, as it will make your life a lot easier when you want to fast travel back the way you came from. If you find yourself with some free time on your hands, definitely try and do as many of the ambush camps as you can, as by completing these, you'll be able to reveal areas of the map. This simply makes it so you don't have to manually go to every square inch of the map to unlock and remove the fog. And something else that I found kind of useful when trying to calculate whether it was worth fast traveling or simply waiting around is the in-game time on this goes pretty fast. 1 hour in-game of Days Gone is approximately just over 2 minutes in real life time, so I hope you can find use in that somewhere. And as we always do in these videos before we end it, if you have been playing for a while and you have found anything useful or some cool tips you would like to share with the community for anyone who is just about to start playing, please do leave them in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.